Jerome Powell does it again. He sends the market down, but Tesla outperforms. Today's video, we're going to talk about the Fed. We're going to talk about Tesla as a stock and as a company. We're going to talk about China deliveries. And maybe most importantly, we're going to talk about an interview that's going to be coming up soon with Ron Barron. If you like this type of content, if you like this video, if you want to just help us out, do me a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, or ring that bell. Let's get into it. Jerome Powell yesterday went ahead and continued this aggressive Fed rate hike that we've been seeing for quite some time now. He did another 75 basis point rate hike, right? So essentially what he's done is he's tried to front load all of these interest rate hikes that he thinks may be needed in order to fight the battle against inflation. The problem that Jerome Powell has, though, is that he doesn't actually know what he's doing. None of us do. If we did, we'd be done already because we would know what we had to do. That seems to make sense. The problem right now is that they've gotten to a point where they feel like they've raised rates aggressively fast enough to a point where they can now kind of give us a little bit of an IV drip when it comes to rate hikes. So in December, I would bet pretty hard on it that we're going to get a 50 basis point rate hike. And I think we're going to see a continue 50 basis points until they get to about 4.5%, maybe even 5% on the Fed's fund rate. And then they're going to stop and they're going to pause and they're just going to see if that does anything to fight inflation. Now, by then, who knows? Maybe inflation will have rolled over in a way that the Fed deems good enough to ease up on increased rate hikes. Or maybe they only wait 1 month, one cycle, and then they say, you know what? Nope, we got to keep raising. We don't know what's going to happen. The Fed doesn't actually know what's going to happen because, again, if they knew, hey, 5% is the number, 6% is the number, we would just go ahead and get there and we'd beat inflation and we'd move on with the rest of our lives. So what happened yesterday? Well, Fed's funds rate gets raised, and then Jerome Powell has his 2:30 p.m. call where he essentially gives his little speech that is perfectly worded to try and convey the perfect balance between bullish and conservative, hawkish, dovish. Those are the words I'm trying to find. And he delivered his speech. But then this is where everything always goes sideways. Is you have all these reporters, these analysts who are sitting there. They're going to ask questions, and Jerome Powell's going to field them. And up until one question, actually, the stock market was liking what they were hearing. Right? They were essentially hearing, okay, we're going to be kind of more data dependent. We're going to slow down the size of these rate hikes. We're not so worried at this point about the size of it, but now it's going to be about how long do we have to continue these rate hikes. So in essence, he told us that we're going to get a 50 basis point rate hike in December. Then we finally got this one interesting question regarding how Jerome Powell feels about the fact that the market, the stock market and the bond market, both are reacting bullish to his speech, to this announcement. And how does he feel about that? And that's when Jerome Powell said, oh no, we need to kill the market right now. And that's when he said, nobody should anticipate a pause. It is way too early for a pause. He goes on to say, we are at the same place as we were last year, right? Inflation hasn't come down at all. His messaging was hawkish. His messaging was essentially trying to keep the stock market at bay, to keep yields high. He did not want any bullish sentiment out there. It was clear. It was almost as if that person was a plant to let Jerome Powell know whether or not the stock market was reacting bullish or bearish. And depending on that, Jerome Powell would know how to really just deliver a message that's as blunt as the interest rate hikes are themselves. So I don't know what's happening here, but it does seem like the Fed is starting to lose a little control with this whole narrative. It's very clear to me that they're going to slow it down in December because I think they're starting to get pressure from politicians. They're starting to get pressure from other countries, from other Federal Reserves, and they don't actually know where they're going, what they're doing. And the truth is, inflation has come down. This was a complete lie by the Fed chairman himself, and I hate to call anybody out like this or call anybody a liar, but it is. We have literally on the CPI gone from 9.1 to 8.7 to 8.5 to 8.3, 8.2, 8.1, right? We have seen inflation come down. We've seen lumber come down. We've seen oil prices come down. We've seen metals come down. We've seen autos come down. We've definitely seen real estate come down. So to say inflation has not come down is a lie. Okay, that is not somebody who is data dependent. Now, clearly, all he cares about is core PCE. That seemed pretty obvious yesterday. That seems to be his metric for where inflation is. So who knows? Maybe at the high mark, we get to 6%. I don't think we're going to get there. I think we're going to start to see inflation roll over even more notably soon here. But again, time will tell, and we'll find out. Until then, I think we're going to be in this type of pattern. Now, on the bright side, for all of us, we're Tesla investors. At least I assume you are if you're watching this channel. Not that this channel is only about Tesla. This channel is meant for investing. But as you all know, I'm invested everything into Tesla other than real estate. So how did Tesla fare today? Well, great question. Happy you asked. Let me share my screen. Well, here you can see what the NASDAQ did, okay? You can see that it gapped straight down, and then we just kind of traded sideways until we closed into the lows. And so NASDAQ closed down 1.73%. Okay, well, let's take a look at the S&P 500. S&P 500 also closed down pretty close to their lows, right? So about 1%. And then the Dow Jones, that's actually held up pretty good overall, only closed down about 0.5%. Let's get into Tesla. Well, Tesla actually fared pretty well with all of this kind of negativity and all of this selling. Tesla finished up about 1/3%. So although it was not the biggest outperformance from a Tesla on Tesla perspective, it did beat the market by a good amount, especially when you compare it to the NASDAQ that was down almost 2%. So you might be wondering, well, why did Tesla fare so well? Well, it's hard to really say. I don't actually have a concrete answer, but I can make some assumptions. Let's start off with this right here. We can see Gary Black's post here, which essentially highlights what I would say is probably the main reason why we rallied today. Gary Black says, Tesla October CPCA China sales of 71,700 vehicles was by far the highest first month of any quarter. See table. He's talking about the first month. So this is the first month of the quarter of Q4, right? So we have October, November, December. October numbers is what we see here from China alone, okay? This is just the Giga Shanghai factory. And so here we can see October was 54,000 here in 2021. That was the first month of the quarter. Okay, let's move forward. Here, 2022, January, first month of the quarter was 59,000. Okay, let's continue. July, we saw 28,000. And then we get into October where we see 71,000. So this is by far the highest we've seen for a first quarter coming out of Shanghai. So this is very bullish. And I think this is probably a big reason as to why Tesla was able to hold up so strongly today, because clearly Tesla is just firing on all cylinders. Maybe not the best analogy, but they're firing on all cylinders when it comes to Giga Shanghai. Now, another thing that's interesting and probably not the reason why Tesla rallied today, but was this this news from Baron Capital. So here we go, or Baron Funds, excuse me. We scroll in here. Baron Capital CEO Ron Baron will interview a surprise guest CEO tomorrow at Baron Conference 2022. Some might say our surprise guest is one of the greatest entrepreneurs in the world. Can you guess who it is? Well, I would guess it's probably Elon Musk, especially given how invested the Baron Fund is into Tesla and SpaceX, and how invested Ron himself is into both of those companies. Now, I don't know if this really has anything to do with the fact that Tesla was up. I imagine most of it has to do with the fact that Shanghai numbers looked beyond good, especially for the first month. And it's just a bullish signal in general, especially with this whole market, right? The other day, I had a live stream essentially saying that Tesla is the market, all right? If you look at it, they are dominating. They're the only growth company, tech company, auto company that is just outperforming from a margins perspective, a revenue perspective, just from all around. Tesla seems to be untouchable. And if for no other reason, it's because they are the best right now, right? They're the only ones doing the most exciting things. They have the most exciting portfolio moving forward. They have the most catalysts going into the next 2 months. So Tesla just seems untouchable at this point. Unfortunately, the stock price doesn't quite reflect that feeling, that bullish feeling we might want or expect at this point. All right, so lots going on here. I think tomorrow should be interesting, especially as we go into the weekend. Look, I know a lot of people are probably sick and tired of being in this kind of stuck range. And I know a lot of people feel that Tesla right now is extremely undervalued. I'm one of those people. I agree with you. But at the same time, you have to just look at this as an opportunity. This is an opportunity to get as many shares, not financial advice, but this is an opportunity to get as many shares as you can while it's at a lower value, right? While it's, at its 52-week lows. That's the time to buy. And so although it's hard, it's painful, and you might feel like I don't want to put any more cash into something that just seems like I keep putting more and more money into it and I just keep losing value. Well, that's part of investing, all right? Part of investing is going through these periods, accumulating, so that when the good times come, you get outsized rewards. So just remember that. These are the types of periods and moments in life, in our history, that we really, really wish we had, right? Imagine going back to the 08, 09, 2010 era and being able to buy as much real estate as you possibly could. You'd probably do it. Imagine going back to the dot-com bubble, right? And being able to, after everything got destroyed, buy a whole bunch of tech companies, right? Whether it's Microsoft and Apple, Google, whoever else, Yahoo, maybe for a little bit there. But the point is, these down periods are the times where you get your chance to really, really change your life by making good investments into good companies that will not stay suppressed for long. Eventually, the economy changes. It rotates back into a bull market. This happens, okay? So right now, this is when it all happens. I can't even stress this enough. These are those moments. These are the moments that people wish for. These are the moments that whenever everything's all at the highs, people are like, oh man, if I only would have bought Google back in that day, oh man, like if I could just go back. Or, oh, if I could have just bought Apple right after the iPhone, right? It's like, these are those moments. Not only with Tesla from a technology point, but just in general from an investment point of view. All right, I feel like I've beat that horse to death. Man, I'm just off today. I think that's the phrase. Anyways, we're gonna leave it there. I have my best friend's birthday is today, so I'm gonna go over. We got some cake, we got some activities we're gonna do. So we're gonna go hang out with him, celebrate his birthday, and yeah, so I'm gonna leave it there. Do me a favor, if any of this resonated with you, just hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and ring that bell. I appreciate all of you, and look out for a video tomorrow because I think tomorrow is going to be a very interesting day. All right, once again, I appreciate all of you. Love you. Peace.